A-C-K. Ack.
Decoding is a word identification skill that allows readers to use the relationship between letters and sounds to recognize words in print. Readers use decoding skills to identify words when they read and to spell words when they write. Readers must be able to decode or identify words independently and rapidly in order to read fluently enough to understand what they read. It can be helpful to teach learners a strategy for how to decode words they don't recognize when they see them in a sentence. Good readers use a step-by-step process to decode unfamiliar words while they're reading. This process is so automatic for most good readers, they don't even realize they're using a decoding strategy. Your learner needs to be explicitly taught how this strategy works. You'll now see a tutor and a learner practicing this strategy.
So Rejoice, you know when you're reading on your own, it's a lot different than when you're reading something when we're working together.
Yes.
And you might see words that you don't know, and sometimes it's hard to decode or break the code, like we say, right? So good readers do that sort of automatically because they've been doing it for years, and they have strategies that they use. And so today I want to just kind of talk about and practice some of those strategies with you so that you can be more comfortable figuring out words on your own when you're reading at home or doing homework or reading your mail. Okay? There's specific steps. So the first thing is when we work on things like common spelling patterns, like we have a closed syllable that makes a short vowel. And so when you're able to figure out where that closed syllable is, you can start breaking down a word. So you're already doing this, okay?
Yes.
Yeah, so common spelling patterns are the things we've already worked on. Learners use that knowledge to sound out words they don't recognize, and you might not pronounce it perfectly the first time, but you usually, once you hear yourself say it, you think, oh, that sounds like a word I do know. And then you modify how you say it and it comes out right, right?
Yes.
Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 times to get it out right, but you kind of work on it until you get something you recognize. So that's matching it up with something that you already know. There's a chance that you might pronounce a word and sound it out the best you can, and it doesn't match up with anything you know. You've had that happen, right?
Yes.
So then the next step would be to use the context of whatever story or sentence or paragraph you're reading and say, well, what could that word be? If I don't know it, but I think I'm saying it correctly, if I read the sentence again, maybe it'll click. Maybe I'll figure it out. And then the last resort, of course, is you can always look it up in the dictionary or ask a friend. Okay. So the way that you're going to work on this on your own is to remember these 3 things. First, you're going to try to say the word that you don't recognize by sounding it out, which is, you already do that. And then you're going to ask yourself, does that word sound familiar? I think you kind of do that. And then you're going to say to yourself, okay, it sounds familiar. Do I know what it means? And then you're going to read the word in the sentence to see if it makes sense after you've tried that. Okay? So we're going to practice that a little bit. So I came up with some that we can practice from the story that we read last week. And it was a hard level of the story, and so we struggled with some words. So I pulled out some of those words, 12 of them, and I put them in sentences so that you could practice these strategies, okay? So let's leave this out where you can ask yourself those questions when you come across words that are hard. Okay, now all the words that we worked on in that story had a specific sound combination. That sound combination was A-C-K. Ack. And at the end of the word, when you spell a word that ends with this sound, it's always going to have CK together. Like sock and clock and rock. They all end with CK, even though you only hear one sound. All right? So go ahead and let's start trying these sentences on your own using that strategy.
I hurt my back. Ouch. I stepped on a thumbtack.
Good.
I can put my tools in this black sack.
Okay, try that one again, because I heard some other words that weren't in the sentence.
Can you put your tools in this black sack.
And what does this tell you about that sentence? This at the end, this little mark.
The sack?
No, the little
Oh, it's a
mark.
question.
Yeah, it's a question.
Can you? That's
so when it starts with can and it ends with a question mark, then you're asking somebody a question.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let's pick for our trip. Let's pack for our trip. And that's an exclamation point.
Yes. Yeah, and
Pack for
when
our
you
trip.
read that, the first time you said pick, and it didn't make sense in the
No.
sentence. So that's using this last strategy.
Oh,
that
okay.
you read it in the sentence and it didn't make sense.
Yeah,
So
and
you
then
had
I
to
went back.
go back and re-sound it out.
Okay.
Okay.
We stacked the chairs in the closet.
Oh, perfect.
Please hang your towel on the rack.
Excellent.
Have you ever been to a racetrack?
Good question.
Zach whacked it. No. Whacked it?
Just
Whacked?
go with that. You're
Zach
getting it.
whacked the ball real hard.
There
was
you got
whacked.
it. It was whacked.
Okay.
So again, the context gave you the clue. So even if you had sounded it out differently, like wicked or whacked, once you read the whole sentence, you were more sure of what it was.
Yes.
Okay.
Mean people hack into computers.
Very good.
Oh, okay.
Hacked.
okay.
Have you heard that word used that way
Hack,
before?
yes.
Hack. Okay.
Uh-huh. You have a knack for fixing cars.
Knack. That's a really weird one, isn't it?
It is.
So we're going to practice that sound later.
Do you always iron your slacks? Jack's snacks lacks water.
Okay.
Jack's
Did that
snack-
make sense?
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's take this word again and try and sound it out. Okay. First two letters are what sound?
Sh.
Yeah.
Shack. Jack's shacks lacks water.
Yeah. That's a tongue twister.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. So so he has some kind of a little shed or shack, maybe up in the mountains, and it doesn't have running water.
Okay.
So okay.
That was cute.
So so that's good practice. A lot of those words were in that story we read, but since they were not in a context that you were familiar with, it made it harder for you to
Yes.
sound them out. This time was a little easier,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay.
You can help your learner decode unfamiliar words while reading independently by practicing the step-by-step decoding strategy you've just seen. Number 1, try to say the word you don't recognize by sounding it out. Number 2, ask yourself these questions. Does the word I said sound familiar? Do I know this word? Number 3, read the word in the sentence and see if it makes sense. You've seen a tutor do quite a bit of talking when explaining a new strategy. During most lessons, you and your learner would be equally talkative.